You know how people tell you to trust your gut? Well, mine was screaming at me for months, but I ignored it because apparently, I'm the villain in my own life story. I'm Sloane, 28, and I've spent the last year watching my entire world crumble like those cheap cookies they sell at the Dollar General. It all started back when I was still playing happy wife with Landon. He's 31 and works night shifts, stocking shelves at the Food Max warehouse. We met 4 years ago at my cousin's backyard wedding. It wasn't love at first sight or anything, but he was steady, you know? Had his own car, a shared apartment with just one roommate, and could make spaghetti without burning down the kitchen. Like, bare minimum adult stuff. But you'd be surprised how many guys can't even manage that. The thing is, I've always been a girl with guy friends. Not in that, pick me. I'm not like other girls' way some chicks do it. It's just how it's been since high school. Finn and Asher have been my ride or dies since 10th grade, when we all got detention for skipping Miss Patterson's history class. They were there through my parents' nuclear divorce, when I dropped out of community college because I couldn't afford it anymore, and every crappy boyfriend before Landon. Landon knew about my friendships from day one. I was upfront. Like, these dudes are my family. They're part of the package. He seemed cool with it at first. Finn and Asher would come over for game nights. We'd all grab beers at Hammered Harry's on Thursdays sometimes. Everything was fine. Until Rhett started at the diner where I wait tables. Rhett was different. He was 26 but seemed older somehow. He had this way of looking at you like he could see all your secrets and thought they were hilarious. First day, we got stuck on the same shift, and I swear it was like we'd known each other forever. He liked all the same true crime podcasts I did, had the same twisted sense of humor. When you're serving entitled jerks all day, you need someone who gets how ridiculous people are. We started texting about work drama, then about everything else. Inside jokes, memes, song recommendations. Nothing sketchy, just friend stuff. But Landon started giving me these looks whenever my phone would ding. "Red again?" he'd ask, trying to sound casual but failing completely. One night, after I laughed at something Rhett sent, Landon finally snapped. "You never laugh like that with me anymore." I tried explaining that Rhett and I just clicked as friends, that Landon was being paranoid but he wasn't having it. "I see the way you light up when he texts you. You don't even look at me like that." That pissed me off. I'm not allowed to have male friends because my husband is insecure? Hard pass. I told him he was being ridiculous and controlling, that if he trusted me, this wouldn't be an issue. The tension kept building. I'd catch Landon trying to peek at my phone, which made me start guarding it not because I had anything to hide, but because his lack of trust was insulting. It became this toxic cycle. He'd act suspicious, I'd get defensive, he'd take that as proof I was hiding something. Things came to a head when Landon swung by the diner to surprise me with lunch one day. He found me and Rhett huddled in a corner booth during our break, laughing so hard I had tears streaming down my face. Landon's face just fell, like someone had let all the air out of him. That night, he said, "I need you to back off with Rhett. The way you act around him isn't right." "You don't get to decide who my friends are," I told him. "I've always had guy friends. You knew this about me. I can't give them up just because you're suddenly insecure." "Oh, it's different with him," Landon insisted. "You know it is." But I stood my ground. These friendships were part of who I was long before Landon came along. If he couldn't handle that, it was his problem, not mine. I had no idea then that my stubbornness would cost me everything. Things went from bad to nuclear about 3 weeks later. I'd left my phone on the kitchen counter while I was in the shower. Big mistake. When I came out, wrapped in a towel, Landon was standing there with my phone in his hand, his face white as a ghost. "What the hell is this?" he asked, his voice shaking. My stomach dropped. He'd seen my texts with Rhett. Not just any texts. The ones where we'd been venting about our partners. Okay, mostly me venting about Landon. And yeah, looking back, some of it was pretty harsh. There were jokes about Landon snoring like a chainsaw murdering a walrus, comments about his dad bod even though he doesn't even have kids, and me complaining about how he never wanted to go out anymore. But the worst part, the part that made Landon look like he'd been punched, was the pictures. I'd taken photos of Landon sleeping with his mouth hanging open, drooling a little, hair all messed up. I'd sent them to Rhett with captions like, "Living with this every night," and "Sexy, right?" It was just dumb humor between friends. At least, That's what I told myself. It's just jokes, I said, trying to grab my phone back. Everyone vents about their partners. It doesn't mean anything. Landon's face hardened in a way I'd never seen before. Would you be laughing if I was sharing embarrassing pictures of you with some woman from work? Mocking you behind your back? Put that way, it sounded pretty awful, but I was too defensive to admit it. You went through my private messages, I countered. That's a major trust violation. Trust violation? Landon laughed, but there was no humor in it. You're humiliating me to another man? And I'm the one violating trust? Finally, he delivered the ultimatum. It's simple. Either you cut contact with Rhett outside of necessary work interactions, or I need to rethink this marriage. I was stunned. You're asking me to choose between my friend and my husband? That's not fair. What's not fair is making your husband feel like a joke, he shot back. I deserve better than that, Sloane. Instead of backing down, I doubled down. I started taking more shifts with Rhett. We'd grab drinks after work, and I'd deliberately post about it on Facebook where Landon would see. When Landon would text asking when I'd be home, I'd wait an hour before responding. I password protected my phone, deleted conversations that might cause problems, not because I was doing anything wrong, I told myself, but because Landon had proven he couldn't respect my privacy. Landon withdrew more each day. He stopped asking about my day, started sleeping on the couch, without me even having to ask. I told myself he was just being manipulative, trying to make me feel guilty for having friends. One night, after a week of barely speaking, I snapped. Are you just going to give me the silent treatment forever? Real mature. What do you want me to say, Sloane? He asked, looking exhausted. You've made your choice pretty clear. I haven't chosen anyone. This isn't a competition. Except it is, he said quietly. And I'm losing. I can't give up my guy friends just because you're insecure, I said, for what felt like the 100th time. That's not who I am. Landon just nodded, like my answer confirmed something for him. He grabbed his pillow from the couch and walked to the spare room. Then I need to figure out who I am without you. A week later, Rhett mentioned that our coworker Maya was having a birthday celebration at Rusty's, this dive bar downtown. I didn't tell Landon where I was going, just said I had plans with work people and would be back late. Rusty's was exactly what I needed. Loud music, cheap drinks, and people who weren't judging my every move. Rhett kept the shots coming, his arm casually draped across the back of my chair. Someone took group photos that immediately went up on Facebook. In some of them, Rhett and I looked cozy, his face close to mine as he whispered something in my ear over the music, me laughing with my hand on his arm. I lost track of my phone and my purse, missed 6 calls from Landon. By the time we stumbled out at closing time, it was 2 a.m. Walking into our dark apartment, I expected to find Landon asleep or waiting up to lecture me. Instead, I found a note on the kitchen counter. Staying at Dean's for a while. Need space. L. Dean was Landon's brother, who lived about 30 minutes away. I felt a flash of panic, followed quickly by indignation. He was seriously moving out because I went to a coworker's birthday? Talk about dramatic. I called him immediately, but it went straight to voicemail. I texted, "Really? Running away instead of talking to me?" No response that night, or the next morning, or the day after that. Meanwhile, my phone was blowing up with notifications from Facebook. Turns out, those innocent photos from Rusty's had made the rounds. Context-free, they told a story that wasn't entirely accurate, but wasn't entirely wrong, either. Landon's friends were commenting things like, "Stay strong, man," and "You deserve better." My stomach dropped when I saw that. Landon had obviously seen the photos. I tried calling him again. When he finally answered, his voice was hollow. "Landon, come home so we can talk about this." "You're overreacting." "Am I?" he asked. "Because from where I'm standing, I gave you a clear boundary, and you not only crossed it, you took pictures crossing it and posted them online. It was just a work thing. Everyone was there." "Right," he said flatly. "And I'm sure you sat that close to all your coworkers, Sloane. I'm not stupid." "Nothing happened," I insisted. "It doesn't matter," he said, and the resignation in his voice scared me. "Whether something physical happened or not, you've made it clear that my feelings don't matter to you." At work, I noticed people giving me strange looks. My manager started scheduling me for fewer shifts, and the lucrative weekend dinner rush spots I usually worked were given to others. When I confronted her, she just said my performance had been slipping and customers had complained. Rhett became my lifeline. He'd listen as I ranted about how unreasonable Landon was being, how everyone was taking his side unfairly. He'd nod sympathetically, tell me I deserved to be happy, that Landon was controlling. Every word was exactly what I wanted to hear. My old friend Ren stopped responding to my texts. When I finally cornered her after 3 cancellations, demanding to know what her problem was, she looked uncomfortable. I think you know, Sloane. Everyone's seen those pictures. Nothing happened. Why does everyone assume the worst? Ren sighed. Because we can all see the way you look at Rhett, and it's not the way you look at just a friend. I was about to launch into another defense when the courier arrived at the diner with an envelope. The moment I saw the legal letterhead, my world stopped. Divorce papers. Right there, between the sticky ketchup bottles and laminated menus. The weeks after getting served were a blur of anger and self-pity. I'd scroll through Facebook to see mutual friends hanging out with Landon, posting supportive comments on his status updates, while my notifications stayed quiet. Even Rhett started getting weird, less texting, less eye contact during our shrinking overlapping schedule time. When I confronted him in the parking lot, he shrugged uncomfortably. Look, this whole divorce thing is getting messy. People are talking. So? Since when do you care what people think? He wouldn't meet my eyes. My job matters to me, Sloane. And Randy, that's our boss, has already warned me about workplace drama. It felt like the floor was dropping out from under me. The one person I thought I could count on was pulling away. I turned to my old friends, desperate for support. Finn responded to my texts with one-word answers or hours later. When I showed up at Asher's apartment unannounced, his wife answered the door with a tight smile and said he was busy. I finally cornered Asher outside his job at the auto parts store. What gives? You've known me for 15 years and suddenly you're too good for me? Asher looked genuinely sad. Sloane, we love you. But this situation, it's not good. Landon's our friend too. So you're taking his side? I couldn't believe it. It's not about sides, it's about... He hesitated, searching for words. Look, I'm married too. If Jen was doing with some guy from her job what you're doing with Rhett, I'd be devastated. I'm not doing anything with Rhett, I practically shouted. Asher just gave me a pitying look. Maybe not physically. But come on, we all saw those pictures. You don't look at a friend that way. One night, after too many glasses of wine alone, I created a post, tagging everyone, Landon, Ren, Finn, Asher, even coworkers. I ranted about how fake they all were, how they'd abandoned me when I needed them most, how they'd taken Landon's side without hearing mine. The comments rolled in quickly. Not supportive ones. Finn, take this down, Sloane. You'll regret it tomorrow. Ren, this is exactly why we're all concerned. This isn't healthy. Asher, call me when you're sober. This isn't the way. Landon didn't comment at all. The silence from him hurt most of all. The next day, nursing a throbbing headache and a shame hangover, I checked my phone to find I'd lost another 20 Facebook friends overnight. People I'd known for years had quietly hit unfriend rather than deal with my drama. When the divorce was finalized 3 months later, I was completely alone. Landon and I settled everything through lawyers. He didn't even show up to the final hearing. I got the apartment since his name wasn't on the lease, plus our old Corolla that had been on its last legs for years. He got most of the furniture and our small savings account. It was quick, clean, and completely heartbreaking in ways I wasn't prepared for. That night, Rhett texted. Heard it's official. You okay? It was the most attention he'd shown me in weeks. Something inside me broke open. I called him immediately, sobbing about how everyone had abandoned me, how my life was falling apart. Come over, he said. No one should be alone tonight. His apartment was smaller than mine, but neater. He poured me a glass of whiskey and sat beside me on the couch, closer than friends typically would. You're better off, he said, his arm sliding around my shoulders. Landon never understood you like I do. The validation was intoxicating after months of judgment. When he kissed me, it felt inevitable, like the moment everyone had accused us of heading toward. Maybe they'd been right all along. The next morning, Rhett made coffee, kissed me again, and said, So, we're really doing this? Just like that, I had a boyfriend. Someone who got me, who didn't try to control who I was friends with. Within a month, I'd moved into his place. It made financial sense. My hours had been cut so drastically at the diner that making rent was a struggle. For a while it was good, great even. We'd work similar shifts, come home together, fall into bed together. No complicated history, no expectations. Just two people having fun. I posted couple pictures on social media, secretly hoping Landon would see them and realize what he lost. Around month 3, Rhett started working different shifts from me. He'd be vague about where he was going after work. His phone would ding with notifications he'd ignore until I left the room. I ignored the signs at first. After all, I wasn't that girl, the jealous, suspicious one. That would make me just like Landon, and I was not nothing like him. But by month 6, the red flags were too big to miss. Lipstick on a shirt collar, seriously? How cliché. Late nights with no explanation. The classic unexplained charges on the shared Netflix account. Someone had been watching shows neither of us mentioned watching. When I finally confronted him, he didn't even have the decency to look guilty. "We never said we were exclusive," he shrugged, as if that explained everything. "We live together," I shouted. "I moved in with you." "Yeah, because you needed a place to stay," he said, his tone making it clear that's how he saw our arrangement. A convenience, not a commitment. I was devastated, but also desperate. I had nowhere else to go, no one else in my corner. "We can work through this," I insisted, hating how pathetic I sounded. "Whatever's missing, I can be that for you." He seemed surprised by my reaction, but agreed to try to make it work. I pretended not to notice when he'd come home smelling like someone else's perfume, or when he'd step outside to take calls. The final blow came 8 months into our relationship. A girl showed up at our door on a Sunday morning. Pretty, young, maybe 22. I opened the door in Rhett's t-shirt, and her face fell. "Is Rhett here?" she asked, her voice small. When I called for him, the look that passed between them told me everything I needed to know before she even said the words, "I'm pregnant." In that moment, watching Rhett's face, not shocked, not surprised, just resigned, I realized I'd blown up my entire life for someone who had never seen me as anything more than a convenient distraction. "How long?" I asked when she left. "Does it matter?" he countered. "Was it going on when I was still with Landon? When you were telling me he was controlling and I deserved better?" Rhett had the audacity to laugh. "Sloan, come on. You wanted an excuse to do what you wanted to do. I just gave you permission." The truth hit like a physical blow. He was right. I'd used his attention, his validation, to justify my own selfish choices. And now I was paying the price. "What happens now?" I asked, already knowing the answer. "Mila's moving in next month," he said, not quite meeting my eyes. "She's keeping the baby. So I need to move out." I finished for him. He nodded, looking almost relieved that I wasn't making a scene. "You can stay until you find a place." 2 weeks later, I found a studio apartment I could barely afford on my reduced diner income. Rhett didn't help me move. In fact, the day I left, he wasn't even home. Probably with Mila, planning their new life that had no space for me. That was 6 months ago. I'm not at the diner anymore. Couldn't stand the pitying looks after everyone found out about Rhett and Mila. I work at the gas and go convenience store now. Night shifts mostly. The pay is worse, the customers are creepier, but at least no one there knows my backstory. My studio apartment is depressing. Beige walls, beige carpet. The kind of place that feels temporary even if you've been there for months. I've barely decorated. Just put up a few photos. Not of Landon or Rhett, obviously. Just old ones of me with Finn and Asher from high school. Before I ruined those friendships too. I stalk Rhett and Mila online sometimes, even though it's like picking at a scab. They had a baby boy 2 months ago. Rhett posts proud dad photos, but his relationship status never changed to in a relationship. Some things never change, I guess. Mila will learn that lesson the hard way, just like I did. Through mutual connections, I learned Landon is dating a kindergarten teacher named Stella. She has curly hair and a wide smile in all her photos. His family loves her. His mom commented, "So happy you found this beautiful soul," on a picture of them at Christmas. A few weeks ago, I was checking out a customer at Gas and Go when I looked up and realized it was Ren. We made eye contact, and I could see her deciding whether to switch to a different line. She stayed. "Hey," I said, scanning her energy drink and chips. "Hey," she replied, not quite meeting my eyes. How are you? Been better, I said, trying for a laugh that came out hollow. You good? Yeah, busy with work. The awkward silence stretched between us, filled with all the things we weren't saying. I heard about Rhett, she finally offered as she handed me her card. That's rough. Yeah, well, turns out everyone was right about him. It was the closest I'd come to admitting I'd been wrong. She nodded, took her receipt. Take care of yourself, Sloane. You too, I said. And then, as she turned to leave, Ren, I'm sorry, for everything. She paused, gave me a sad smile. I know. Me too. It wasn't forgiveness, wasn't a promise to rebuild our friendship, just acknowledgement. It was something, though. The first tiny step toward maybe being a person someone could take seriously again someday. That night, scrolling through dating apps alone in my beige apartment, I paused on a guy who looked vaguely like Landon. I wondered what he'd say if I told him my story. Would he see a villain? A cautionary tale about the woman who threw away her marriage for a player who never cared about her? Or would he see someone who made mistakes but might be worth taking a chance on anyway? I closed the app without swiping. The truth is, I'm not ready. Not for dating, maybe not even for friendship. I need to figure out who I am first, who I want to be. I need to learn how to take others seriously, their feelings, their boundaries, their trust. Because until I do that, why would anyone take me seriously in return? I said, I can't give up my guy friends, like it was some noble stand for independence. Now I have no one left who takes me seriously. Not friends, not family, not even myself. And the bitter irony is, those guy friends I couldn't give up, they gave me up without a second thought. Turns out the price of being right was losing everything that actually mattered.